After taking a week off from racing, NASCAR is going to be back in action this upcoming weekend out at the Nashville Super Speedway. The Truck Series is going to be in action. The Xfinity Series is also going to be in action. And obviously, the Cup Series is going to be in action with the Ally 400 on Sunday night at 7 p.m. It's going to be a phenomenal weekend of racing. The Truck Series and Xfinity Series are always good shows. They always perform well under the lights, a lot of chaos to go on. But I'm not going to talk about that today because you got so many drivers that are going to be getting into this race later on in the week. So it's kind of hard to predict who's going to do good and who's not going to do good without knowing the full entry list. So today I'm just going to give you my full-on predictions for the Ally 400, the Cup race, if you will. Last year we saw Chase Elliott getting the job done there, and the year before Kyle Larson. The trend is Hendrick Motorsports. Does that continue into 2023? Time will tell. They have been good so far this year. Hendrick Motorsports as a whole. William Byron picking up a couple of wins, and Kyle Larson also. And on top of that all, I'm also going to talk about the Canadian Grand Prix for Formula One, which took place this past weekend, which we saw a very exciting weekend of racing. Friday was good in practice, and Saturday we saw a wet day. Sunday we saw a lot of incidents take place and a lot of storylines to follow up on. And I'm also doing a Pick 5 contest as always, so get your picks down below to be entered. Enough said here, and on to the intro we go.
I'm Chase Briscoe, driver number 14 Ford Mustang for Stewart Haas Racing, and you're watching William Blackwell on YouTube.
The NASCAR Cup Series has been heading out to the Nashville Super Speedway on an annual yearly basis since the 2021 season, in which that year we saw Kyle Larson running through the field and taking home the checkered flag. 2022 rolls around, we see Chase Elliott rolling through the field and taking home the checkered flag. And what does both of those wins have in common? They actually got many things. Chevy and Victory Lane, but it's a Hendrick Motorsports car. And does the trend continue that a Hendrick Motorsports car or a Chevy car in general is going to go into Victory Lane this Sunday? I beg to differ. I believe Martin Truex Jr. is hot right now in the Cup Series. He won Sonoma, a track he's been really good at in the past. He's got a win at Dover. I just think right now Truex is heating up. And I believe he's going to come out here this weekend in Nashville and put on a clinic. Because whenever Truex wins a race, he doesn't just somehow slips through and gets a Mickey Mouse win. He goes out there and dominates. He puts on a hell of a performance, leads hundreds of laps. That's just what Martin Truex Jr. does. And I believe he's going to do that this weekend in Nashville and at least win one stage. So there you go. Martin Truex Jr. going to Victory Lane yet again in the 2023 season. At this point in time, it should not come as a shock. It should be similar to Alex Palou going to Victory Lane in IndyCar and Verstappen going to Victory Lane on top of the podium, if you will, in Formula One. It's like a slam dunk. You're kind of expecting it, and I believe Truex is starting to heat up, and it's going to make a big time decision to be made here in a couple of weeks for his future, because Truex right now is doing well. And just assuming he wins this race, has another win to the season, it is going to be very hard for him to walk away from the sport and with a good team like this. But it's Truex, it's his decision. It's not the fans' decision, it's his own decision. If he wants to go out on his own terms, you got to respect that. If he wants to go out on his own terms on top, that's just going to look even better on the stat paper. So Martin Truex Jr., though, is going to have a tough decision to make here in the coming weeks. So we'll stay tuned to that one, folks. Second place, though, is obviously going to be a Hendrick Motorsports car. If they're not winning the race, they're going to be up there. And I believe second place is going to be the 5 car of Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson this year has been very competitive on the short tracks. I believe it's a battle between him, William Byron, and Martin Truex Jr. And besides that, it's pretty not competitive at all. So I think he will come home in second place. And in third place, I kind of gave it away. It is going to be William Byron. William Byron, I am liking what I'm seeing from him. When he first came into the Cup Series, he was well off the pace, driving around in the mid-20s to 30s, not looking promising at all. But as the years have gone through, he went with Chad Canals for a year. They picked up a win, made the playoffs, and next thing you know, as soon as he got connected with Rudy Fugle, once again, he was with them in the Truck Series. They just started shaking and baking. So William Byron right now, he's on a rip. He's on a tear in the 2023 season. And I believe he's going to be a competitor. But I believe the 19 car of Martin Truex Jr., it's just going to be so much quicker and it's going to be tough to beat him. So William Byron coming home in 3rd place. 4th place, though, is going to be the 12 car of Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney entered the 2023 season being compared to drivers like Casey Kane in the past. A great team, great crew chief, great pit crew, if you will. Just cannot perform well in the big moments. He chokes. Casey Kane did that quite often with the 5 team when he raced for Hendrick Motorsports from, let's say it was 2012 to 2018. It was something odd like that. But Casey Kane, though, he was known for the mistakes, and Ryan Blaney has been up there with him. But I believe Ryan Blaney right now is getting a much better reputation. I'm not throwing shade at Casey Kane. I like Casey Kane. I believe he was a great driver. But, though, Kyle Petty does have a point. He had all the potential in the world, but he can never get the job done in the big moments. And Ryan Blaney had that reputation, but right now it's starting to change, and it's starting to look better for him. He dominated in the Coca-Cola 600, and the following weekend in Gateway was somewhat competitive. Somewhat is a key word here, out in Sonoma. I got big hopes for Ryan Blaney in Nashville, a track he's been hit or miss at in the past, whether that's the Cup, Xfinity Series, so someone to keep an eye on. So Ryan Blaney coming home in 4th place. 5th place, though, is going to be, it can't be Candyman no more. It can be the Grassman, if you will, if you get what I'm saying. Kyle Busch in the 8 car for Richard Childress Racing. This year, a lot of people entering the season was counting him out, saying he's a RCR. He's not going to be as good as he once was with Joe Gibbs Racing. Man, and them people right there are looking dumb. Because Kyle Busch has came into Richard Childress Racing and turned that whole program around. He's already got 3 wins within the first half of the season as a whole. He won out in Auto Club. He won in Talladega. He won in Gateway. I am sure he's going to pick up many more wins as the season goes on. And it can very well be this weekend out in Nashville if I'm totally wrong with the Truex prediction. But though I am very confident in it. But Kyle Busch, though, you can never count him out. So if you're having a fantasy lineup and you're kind of borderline between a couple of drivers, Kyle Busch is the man to go with. And my dark horse here this weekend in Nashville is going to be the 6 car of Brad Keselowski. Brad Keselowski was running decently last year in the RFK car here at Nashville last year at this time. RFK didn't really wasn't performing in the top 15 on a consistent basis, but this race he was inside the top 15. And towards the end of the season, their short track program had gotten much better. 2023 rolls around, is getting even more better. And right now, RFK is at the state of being race-winning contenders on a weekly basis on the short track. So Brad Keselowski is a driver to keep an eye on. He's trying to end a big-time winless streak. I believe it goes all the way back to the 2021 Geico 500 at the Talladega Superspeedway. He's wanting to end that race winless streak. He nearly did it a couple months ago at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, where he got passed by Joey Logano on the final lap in the number 22 Auto Traders Ford Mustang. But Brad Keselowski, I believe, is going to win a race before too long. So time will tell there. I'm just getting a little choked up. I don't know why. But yeah, Brad Keselowski, dark horse, never count him out. But there you go. Truex wins. Kyle Larson 2nd. 3rd, William Byron. 4th, Ryan Blaney. 5th, Kyle Busch. And the weather looks iffy. I thought at first on the radar is you can see that there is rain, but the rain will be there until about an hour leading up to the green flag for the Ally 400. But after that, it looks pretty clear. And could we be in another situation like where the rain will, it'll say it's not going to rain, but it is going to rain and carry on and on? Or is the radar accurate or the predictions accurate? Time will tell on that. But for now, I am somewhat optimistic about racing on time for the Ally 400 at the Nashville Superspeedway. Now on to Formula One. So the Canadian Grand Prix was pretty much one of the better races we have seen so far in the 2023 season. The best one by far has to be the Australian Grand Prix, but Canada is up there. We saw Max Verstappen taking home the checkered flag, winning Red Bull's 100th race in Formula One, a big deal for them, but also Adrian Newey, as it is his 200th career win in Formula One. So very successful team and very successful engineer in Adrian Newey. So congrats to them. Second place, we saw the Aston Martin of Fernando Alonso. Remember, out in Barcelona, he stated that this was going to be his last race without a podium. And so far, he got a podium out in Montreal. He's living up to the hype. Third place was Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes. I believe Mercedes were not supposed to be up there this weekend in Canada. Canada, Montreal as a whole, has not suited the Mercedes car well in the past, but they somehow went out this weekend and Hamilton put it on the podium. So big deal for them. They'll take that as a big time win. Fourth place was Charles Leclerc, and I believe this was an interesting deal because Carlos Sainz was easily quicker than him, but they would not let him race him at all, and which kept him finishing in fifth place. So, Ferrari, what are you doing? Because Charles Leclerc, for one, is behind in the driver's title, and behind the Carlos Sainz, and Carlos Sainz can use them points a little bit more. Maybe something happens to Verstappen and Alonso and Hamilton. I know this is a big if, but what if something did happen to him, though? Then points would be much more valuable. So what are you doing, Ferrari? It's typical stuff at this point in time. Sixth place was Sergio Perez, who struggled in qualifying on Saturday and had a bad starting position. I'm getting my words tied up here for Sunday's big race, but he did manage to come home in the points, and on top of that all, got the fastest lap on the very last lap of the race. So big deal for him. That was one less point Fernando Alonso got. So a big deal for Red Bull as a whole in the Constructors title because that's one more point for them. I'm not trying to make it seem like they needed that at all because they can easily go on and win the championship without that one very point. All right, behind him in seventh place, we had Alex Albon, my driver of the day, and also the fans' driver of the day. He was racing in a Williams car. Williams cars are not typically known in this day and age to be contenders in the top 10 getting points. And Alex Albon with the new updates finished seventh. A big deal for them. And I hope to see these upgrades work just as good for Logan Sargent when he gets them out in Silverstone. Because I believe if he can perform well with these new upgrades, Williams is going to move up to the leaderboard in the Constructors title. 8th place, Esteban Ocon. 9th place, Lance Stroll. Very disappointing weekend for him at his home Grand Prix. What does Aston Martin do with him? If he's not able to match Fernando Alonso on a consistent basis by the end of this year, which right now he isn't, what are they going to do? Because he is definitely holding them back, and there are many better drivers, if you will, out there on the market. I like Felipe Drugovich, who is the team's reserve driver. You got Stoffel Van Dorn. You got a couple of IndyCar drivers, Alex Palou. There's a lot of drivers out there that are capable of doing good in a good ride in Formula One. And if Lance Stroll can't do that, they're just going to be held back for years to come in the Constructors battle. And, Lawrence ain't going to play this game too long. I promise you that right now. 10th place was Valtteri Bottas, a big weekend for him. A lot of people were questioning his ability and capability in Formula One after struggling in his first half of the season to Zhou Guanyu in the Alfa Romeo Sauber car. And got some points this weekend, so it kind of hushed up the critics. So there you go there. Oscar Piastri with a solid 11th place run. McLaren wasn't really expecting good points, but they were wanting to be around the point range, if you will, being close to 10th and 9th place. Because I believe that was where their battle was. And Oscar Piastri did a phenomenal job after wrecking it up in qualifying. Behind him was Pierre Gasly in 12th place. 13th place was Lando Norris, who originally finished in 10th place, but or 9th place, if you will, but he got that 5-second penalty for unsportsmanlike conduct, which moved him all the way back to 13th. 14th place was Yuki Tsunoda. terrible day. He had an early incident which caused him to pit on the second lap of the race and lose tons of time from the pack, and it's hard to make that up, but Yuki Tsunoda 14th. 15th was Nico Hulkenberg after a phenomenal qualifying effort, struggled and lacked in race pace. 16th, Zhou Guanyu. 17th, Kevin Magnussen, who was having a phenomenal day until he got tangled up with the AlphaTauri of Nick DeVries, who ended up in 18th place. 19th was George Russell, and 20th was Logan Sargent. And Logan Sargent, I will say this right now so the air is cleared up. Even though on paper it looks very bad, Alex Albon finishing up in the points in 7th place and his teammate in 20th. Sargent did have a mechanical failure, and I believe he's also going to be on the back foot in Austria the next race out, because he's not going to have the new upgrades. Albon will, and Austria is going to suit the Williams car really, really well, because you got some long straightaways there, and I believe they're just going to be a ton quick on the straight. So there you go there. I believe Albon, like I said, is going to be quicker than Sargent, and Sargent is going to be down the leaderboard, so you really can't hold that against him. And also, there's so many people out there being biased towards Logan Sargent because he's an American. I believe, though, once the new upgrades will come in, he's going to show everyone out there why he belongs in Formula One. Right now, it's kind of hard to back him up, but I can see why some people are saying it, but just wait till Silverstone. Wait till Silverstone. I believe Logan Sargent is going to turn around his season and make Williams a force to reckon with. Just give him some time, folks. He needed some time in Formula 2 and in Formula 3. He needs it in Formula 1. And when that time comes, oh boy, I am sorry for the competition. But everybody, though, remember to please like and subscribe and comment down below on what you think about the Canadian Grand Prix, and also give me your top 5 for the NASCAR Ally 400, because you can be entered in the Pick 5 contest. Everybody have a phenomenal day, and I will see you guys tomorrow.